Hello everyone and welcome to Spilling the Tea, brought to you by Otolo. I'm your host Saskia, and these podcast episodes will be exploring the world of hospitality through the eyes of Gen Z. What are the questions we're trying to answer? What does the future of hospitality think, want and believe? So without further ado, it's time to listen to them. Hello and welcome to another episode of Spilling the Tea. Today I'm joined by two lovely people. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Alfie. I'm the bar manager at King's Cross, Drake & Morgan. I am 19 years old, so I am Gen Z.
Officially a Gen Z.
And I'm Chantelle Christie, and I am the head of people for Drake & Morgan. I don't want to necessarily disclose my age.
That's absolutely fine, Chantelle. We're not forcing anything here.
Maybe.
Alfie, we're going to kick off the conversation. Why are you working in hospitality? Tell us why you're here.
Now it's because I enjoy it and I love it, but I fell into it, really. It was an accident through COVID, to be honest. Before that, I worked in a market, and then I was a mechanic. I've done loads of random different jobs. And then I had nothing else to do. I was scrolling on Indeed, and I found a waiter job that was 20 minutes from where I was living. I thought, I'll give it a go. I was a terrible waiter, in all honesty. I really was. I was an awful waiter.
Did you start at Drake & Morgan as a waiter?
Yeah.
You
My
wasn't an
first
awful
ever
waiter.
hospitality job was Drake & Morgan as a waiter in Devonshire Terrace at Liverpool Street.
Okay.
And it was busy. Because DT really got busy after COVID because it's got a lot of outside space.
And how old were you when you started?
I was 17.
Okay, so you've been working for 2 years in hospitality.
Yeah, all at Drake & Morgan as well.
And Chantelle, what drew you to hospitality? Do you think it was the same thing? That obviously not COVID, but would you say it was a similar thing to Alfie?
It was definitely similar. I initially always thought I'd go and be a barrister, and then decided when I was in my final year and choosing universities that actually I felt like I'd done enough at school and I wanted to go out and have a bit of fun. And my parents were a little bit horrified and I had to peel them slightly off the ceiling. Strangely, my dad actually embraced it considerably better than my mum did, which was a massive surprise. And I was a part-time waitress at the time. And my boss basically offered me to, if I came on full-time and be a supervisor. And yeah, it kind of went from there. And then did what most people do, I think, in hospitality. If you fall into it, you do it for a couple of years and then you think, actually, is this what I want to do? Because you look at your friends, and I don't know if it's the same now, but I looked at my friends and the lifestyle that they were having and me actually working at that point and thought, oh no, do I want to be in like an office 9 to 5? So I joined a bank in the middle of a recession, which again, my entire family thought was hilarious and blamed me for the 2008 crash. I'm sure lots of people are very pleased that I no longer work for Cheltenham and Gloucester.
The economy's only just recovering.
It has,
now.
yeah. luckily, M&B, who I started my career with, came back and were like, look, we're going to open a new site. We want you to come on board again as an assistant manager and kind of go from there. And I did that. And then eventually I took the leap again out of kind of like operations once I worked up. A bit like Alfie, I started off as a waitress, worked my way up to supervisor, then assistant manager, then assistant general manager, and then like openings trainer, and then general manager, all before I was kind of 20. And then decided to go to a different brand and try that, and eventually decided that I wanted to try the people side was what really, really kind of spoke to me and I loved. And I went into recruitment and then kind of accidentally picked up HR along the way and then ended up here, which I absolutely adore. And it probably even now, it's only taken me to now to realise this is my career. I think up until about 3 years ago, I probably always thought, I still don't quite know what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah, when I'm older.
Yeah. And just realised that I just enjoyed this for the here and now. And it's only kind of, I say, probably since just before COVID, I realised actually how much of an impact this role can have within a business and what you can do with it.
Yeah. And out of interest, what do your parents think now?
I think they tell people what I do now. I don't know how. They openly tell their friends and family that
what you do.
Yeah, it's our daughter, and she's head of people at Drake & Morgan. But no, to be fair, they've been unbelievably supportive. I did it all without going to university, which is odd.
But
And
also
it's not-
amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it just shows that hospitality isn't an industry where you need to go to university
no,
and do that.
and I think that's the thing. I mean, I know we'll come on to it, but in terms of it, it's just there are so many different avenues and there are so many skills, whether that you'll take with you through life, whether that's in hospitality or in completely different industries that are completely transferable all over the world.
Absolutely.
And I think that, I'm kind of testament to that, but I'd pretty much say that actually the majority of our operations team at D&M are the same.
Yeah.
And, they've all kind of grown and worked within it. And especially our 2 ops managers at the moment, both started with us as general managers and developed up. But we've got senior general managers that started off as bartenders. We've got head chefs that started as KPs. At every level. I mean, something like 86% of our roles are actually grown in-house.
Amazing.
So,
and I think what's incredible about that whole aspect is that hospitality, I think, can sometimes be seen as a bit of a dead-end job.
Yeah.
To young people in particular. And I think it's such a misrepresentation because actually the career progression is incredible in hospitality. Like the fact that you can start as a KP and end up as a head chef. And I don't know that many industries where that happens.
No.
So clear.
Completely black and white. You can actually be so transparent about it. It's 2 things. I always think, and I talk about it a lot, I think that the States, have nailed it. Like hospitality is considered a profession. People leave school intentionally to be a professional waiter. We just don't have that kind of, not respect, I don't mean it in a negative way, but, and I'm sure Alfie might tell me it's all changed, but in terms of from my friendship group, I know when I first fell into it, everyone just thought I was at work getting drunk all the time.
Yeah.
And that was how it went, and how it went down. And it must be great because you just get free food and it's so sociable and all the rest of it, and actually it's I think it's fair to say it's easily one of the most challenging industries out there because
Absolutely.
It's only sociable with the people that you're working with because you work every bank holiday, the majority of evenings.
The irony is it's the most antisocial job ever.
Exactly.
It really
and it's huge, isn't it?
It really
and
is.
so and what you find though is that hospitality has probably the most passionate people in it because you really have to love it to do it because it's not an easy job.
And the team.
Yeah.
You really got to love the team.
They're your family.
You spend so much time with the core team. Like there's 60 hours a week some weeks, 50, 60 hours a week with the same core team.
Yeah,
You've got to
especially
get on.
Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas time, you practically live together.
You do.
You go home for the 10-hour stretch, you sleep, you get back up, you shower, and
You're back
you see
in.
each other. Yeah, it's literally, I'll see you in about 10 hours when you're leaving. And
You
then
do,
you're
look
back
up.
again.
And you eat together.
Yeah.
You sort of do all that.
You've got to enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have the core team, you'll struggle. But if you can build that team and make fun of it, it's the only way to get through it.
Yeah.
If you've got to have some fun with it and just look at each other and laugh and say,
You do.
there's 400 people here trying to get a gin tonic. Like,
What are we going to do?
Yeah, we're just
How do
going
we
to
do
have
it?
to keep
Crowd
going.
control.
Just keep
That
going.
was my favourite bit.
Yeah,
Crowd
and
control.
that's the bit where I laugh the most.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
when there is nothing you can do but laugh.
No,
Or you'll go insane. So you just have to look
Yeah.
and look around and say, wow.
I'm
Like,
so
just
glad
get your
that's
head
not
down.
changed. I used to do the exact same. I'd look up and you'd look at each other and you'd just share this look when you were about 9 deep at the bar.
Enjoy the busy service on the bar.
Yeah.
Well, I prefer that to a quiet service. I get really bored.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like hospitality. I like to be quite busy.
Alfie, can you tell us more about your role, what you're doing right now, and how you got there?
So, as I said, I started as a waiter in Devonshire Terrace. Chantelle might disagree with me, but I think she's being nice. I was a terrible waiter. In all honesty, it really wasn't for me. I didn't love it. I wasn't a huge fan.
And you weren't put off by hospitality because you were
No,
a
I
terrible waiter?
was.
Okay.
I was. I didn't like that waiting job. I really thought, this is something I'm going to do part-time until I find something else. I want to go back and be a mechanic or work in the market. This is not my style at all. Because it's very different to being a mechanic and things like that. You sit in the back, don't speak to people, don't have to give any customer service. You just fix a
Yeah.
bike or a car and you send it back.
Yeah.
It's nice and easy.
So that was appealing at that point, and then what changed?
Well, then I wanted to leave the company, actually, and was going to leave, and an operations manager by the name of Gemma gave me a call, said, don't do it, come with me. I've got another site that's very, very close. I think you'll enjoy it a bit more there. There's a GM called Alex. I think you'll really get along with him. Come there, come and work at the Drift. And I said, all right. And I went in 2-3 days later, and as soon as I started there, I loved it. It was just a very different style. And that's more my style. Like I said, the busy bar side,
yeah.
the restaurant service and that level of, I don't know, just food service is not my thing. I love to go out and eat, But to give food service is really, I'm not great at it, to be honest.
so
Don't forget your drinks development side of you.
Oh, well, yeah, so I'll get there. So then went to
Could we just
Drift.
give Gemma a shout
Still went
out?
to the Drift.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, so she
doing that,
basically kept me in the company, in all fairness to Gemma.
and the industry,
Because
generally.
I was 100% decided on me going and leaving and just finding another job. And I was at home with no plan to go back to DT ever again. I
Don't
decided.
make it sound like we were so awful to you.
No,
But
it
he
wasn't.
wasn't going to step foot in the building ever again.
I just decided that hospitality wasn't for me. I just basically
Yeah.
said, I don't want to be a waiter. And she said, well, listen, called me up, explained that DT said they do weddings. It's not
Yeah.
like all the Drake and Morgan venues are different in their own way.
Mm.
Like, so if you go to any different venue, you'll see they've got the
different
same
style.
menu, the same drinks menu, but the restaurant will either be insanely busy for breakfast or lunch. You see some venues that are busy just Tuesday, Wednesday, some that are busy Friday and Saturday.
Quick question. How many sites has Drake and Morgan got?
17.
17, and all based in London.
So one in Manchester and one is in the in Heathrow Terminal 4 called the Commission.
Yeah.
And the rest are all in the city.
And they all have the same food menu?
Yeah, so if they all look different and have a different feel and appeal to different people.
Yeah.
And I think for us, that really helps us. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but from a recruitment perspective, it really helps because it means you can literally find horses for courses. You can find the right place to suit somebody.
Well, and like, has Gemma noticed
Well,
that was you were,
literally it for
literally
me.
in the wrong site?
Yeah, it's that that site didn't
We do it
suit
a lot.
me because that wasn't what I enjoyed.
So you moved to this new site and
As a waiter still.
As a waiter again?
Because I wasn't 18 yet, and then I turned 18. Because originally, when I applied for DT, I actually did want to be a bartender, but with no hospitality knowledge, walked into there, and they went, well, you're not 18, so you can't serve alcohol, it's not legal. Okay, what can I do then?
Slight lie, but you can, but we just would rather you started
right,
as a bar backer or a waiter
Yeah.
and we
well,
build
that
you
was-
up to that.
That's and then I was
easy
offered
reason.
KP, food runner, or waiter,
Yeah.
and I said, you know what, I'll be a waiter, and then became a bartender at the Drift. Alex brought me onto the bar, and Saeed, who's, as you were talking about earlier, he's one of those people. He started as a barback in the Folly, and now he's a GM.
He's the GM of that site, actually.
Yeah, he's the GM at the Drift.
Amazing.
I have to give a lot of props to Saeed.
Shout out Saeed.
He brought me up a lot in the company. Changed a lot about the way I looked at hospitality and the way I worked.
Would you say he was very much a mentor to you?
Definitely. And Alex, and
Yeah.
even now Patrick. Like, to be fair, I think that's why Drake and Morgan's very good for progression. A lot of the team have been there and done that already. So Saeed's looking at me from a point of view of I was a bartender. I'm now he was an AGM at the time, probably 4 or 5 years later. He's saying, listen, I'm looking at you. You can do it in 2 years. Get your head down. Now I'm a bar manager. Now I speak to him on the phone. He says you can be an AGM in a year. Like, so that's
That's
good
so
for progression.
interesting. Yeah, because obviously at Otolo, our offer is mentoring because we believe that in order to progress, you almost need somebody to show you what the path looks like, and the hospitality doesn't necessarily have that in a formal capacity.
No.
So it's interesting that you had that in work.
Oh, yeah. I
And
was
would you
quite
say
lucky.
mentorship through these people was like?
Oh, yeah, it was
crucial
massive.
to-
When I was when I became a bartender, I was still had plans to go to uni. It was through the summer, and then I had gone there towards the end of the summer break between college and university. So as the summer ended, I said to them, I'm going to change to part-time and I'm going to go to uni. Bearing in mind, so I was going to go to uni in Brighton Met.
Okay.
And I
It's
had...
a bit far to commute.
It's very far to commute.
Part-time hours as well.
It's very
Central
far to
London.
commute. It was massively unorganised. But I didn't want to leave London. I've lived here my whole life. My whole family was here, and I really didn't want to go and live in Brighton. It wasn't for me. So I was going to go and do motorsports. Was really interested in it. Really thought that's what I was going to do with my life. Like, planned that from 15, 16 when I picked my GCSEs, A-levels and a BTEC to do engineering, just so that I would go and do that. And then went there for 2 weeks and realised I did not want to be at uni. It was very different to college. Very, very different. And I was not enjoying it. And I wasn't enjoying the 2-hour train ride
Yeah.
there and back. So,
Not surprised.
yeah, I really wasn't a fan. And then came back in and said, I want full-time hours.
Good for you for making that decision, because I think there can be quite a lot of societal pressures sometimes to, if you started a course at university, and to know it's not for you is pretty mature of you.
The
know
main
that and
thing
be
I
like,
was
nope.
worried about, to be honest, was all of the student loans. So I know, but I know people who have gone to uni
Yeah,
for 3
but
years,
it's-
spent a fortune, Like, I've got people in my family. My uncle, he went to uni and studied law. He still works in the flower market. Like, fair play to him, great. He's got a law degree, that's amazing.
But that depth,
by the time he finished it, because he really took a year, he ended up being there for 4 or 5 years. By the time he finished it, he said, I hate this subject. I don't want to work in this subject. Like, I could not deal with it. And he went back to go work in the market.
Yeah.
See, I had obviously when I was going to go to university and then decided I wasn't going to go do it, I think my mum especially kind of held out hope, and it was the right thing to do 100%, where she was like, well, let's do it for, let's have a year of you doing this, and you want to work and whatever, let's have a year of you doing that, and then maybe you'll want to apply again, and almost like have a third year and go to university in September, the following year. So as it got closer, we obviously started talking about it again as a family. And what sounds really weird at the time is I just got so used to earning my own money. The idea of not having that and taking on debt at that age and, losing out on effectively what I saw as like my independence as such was kind of like a huge factor at the time for me going, actually, no, I want to carry on doing this and seeing what happens. But it's interesting you were like, I just saw my friends and how much debt they're in.
There's like, even now, I see my friends are still going to uni and they've still got like another year left, another 2 years left, some of them. And they're like, they can't go on holiday. Like, I'm able to go on holiday. I'm like having a great time. To be honest with you, like I am. They're really struggling. Like, obviously, I do see that in the future, maybe their life will be different. They might sit in an office. They might work 3-4 days a week. One of my friends wants to be an electrician. He might be a call-out electrician for very good money.
Don't hold out hope on the 4 days a week. It's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like...
I'm not that bothered about a 4-day week, to be honest with you. I don't... 5 days reasonable.
I've also interrupted. So you were at the Drift.
Oh, yeah, so the story. Yeah, sorry. This is the slowest story ever. But anyway, became bartender at the Drift, started to like it, worked with Alex and Saeed. They sort of brought me on. And then Alex ended up leaving the Drift for King's Cross, Drake and Morgan. When he got there, he could see that the bar needed some work and he wanted to bring someone in. It happens quite a lot as well when a GM moves. A lot of the time staff will follow because I think a lot of the GMs are like mentors.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time when a GM moves, there will be a few members of staff that they've really mentored that will want to go with them.
Yeah.
And he offered me a supervisor role there. So I said, of course. This was now after me realising, like you, I deferred a year from uni. This was at the end of that year now. I'd done a full year at the Drift and me realising that I am not going back to uni and I'm going to be working hospitality. So I took the supervisor role full-time, King's Cross, big hours, very different style to the Drift because I was still part-time at the Drift. And then went there. When I arrived, they had no bar manager. So I went there as a supervisor, but another supervisor was managing the bar. He ended up leaving. He brought in a replacement. It didn't really work out. And then I worked a lot through Christmas, did a lot of hours, did the training course for Chantelle in January, February times. Did Bartender Academy. I don't think I was involved in those Christmas cocktails though.
No, I think it was more last year that you started up into development.
So then I worked that Christmas and I became bar manager probably around February time, sort of. I was told I was going to get it around then. So I knew, to be honest with you. Before it happened, I knew it was coming. So I became the bar manager, took over the bar. I'd already worked there for a while, so it wasn't really a huge change for me. I did have to step up and change. We was talking about it earlier, like how professional you are with staff.
Yeah.
When you've been out drinking with them the night before and things like that, when you've been just a bartender or supervisor.
How do you make that shift?
And you're really friendly. So, and you can blame other managers when you're at that level. It's really easy. You can just say, oh, well, say like Patrick or Alex has told me you need to get this done. I'm sorry, it's not me, but you just need to get it done. And you're still the friend. You're just a messenger. Don't shoot the messenger, but this is what you need to do. And then when you become the manager, it's like, oh no, you have to do it because I'm telling you to do it. And then
you've got to sort of develop your style, your management style, and what kind of manager you want to be.
I still try and really be friendly.
Yeah, well, I think you absolutely can.
It does work, but you've got I keep banging on about the team, but it's just so true. Like, if you've got the right team, you can get away with being really friendly. Because if they respect you enough and they look at you as a friend as well, then it works. If they don't look at you as their friend, then your management style has to adapt. Like, I have different management styles with different members of staff because some people respond to certain things in the right way and some people really don't. Some people really need to be kicked up the arse and be pushed to work hard. And some people just need a polite reminder of, please get that done for me. And they'll do it because they care.
Yeah.
That's the difference, I think, really.
And I think one brilliant thing about when you've started and you've worked your way up is that when you do get to that management level, you've worked in every aspect. And I think people respect people who have done it and understand what the role entails that they're doing.
No, yeah, it is easier for me as well to understand how they're feeling.
Exactly.
Because I've been there and done it. Like, I know on a Saturday, if you're doing a double shift, by 10 o'clock, sometimes, like, you've just been serving on the bar 3-4 hours. You just want to go outside for 10 minutes of fresh air.
Yeah,
like, it's okay. And the fact that they have seen me in the same position, they've seen me do those long hours of service, they've seen me do Christmas time, like, it really helps, I think. And you keep that same team bond.
Yeah.
When you bring somebody else who is new to the company, has never done it before, into a management role, I think they do struggle. I wouldn't know any stats if you did, but I think that's why some of the best managers in the company have started from like lower down and progressed on.
So what we do a lot of the time if we're hiring an external is we'll bring them on as a designate. Lots of reasons.
What's a designate?
So designate basically means that we don't really have a home base at that point. So like I said earlier, we have obviously 17 sites, but they're all quite different. And yes, okay, you go through the interview process and you'll meet them and you'll get a feel for them and, you know, what motivates them, what they enjoy. But coming in as a designate means that they can come in and do their training period with us of 4 weeks. And then we'll move them effectively around the estate as and when needs them that we think would be a good fit, which allows them time to see which site they like or what kind of style of service they like. And then obviously when there's a vacancy arise, we then drop them in effectively. So it gives them enough time to kind of learn D&M all over and then basically come in and take it from there. So, so in terms of, I get completely what you're saying, and don't get me wrong, Alfie, when we've got the certain vacancies and you do think, actually, we would be better. I mean, you're always better hiring internally for it, but obviously if that's not an option, because you also don't want to rush people into roles, you know, and there is nothing wrong with new blood. There is so much talent out there that it shouldn't always, I don't believe it should always be a case that you just take everybody internally. Sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes to join a team to see something you're missing, or to round that off or polish that off or give somebody more time. And I think that's what we try and do, or I think we do pretty well, is finding the right fits for people and then allowing them that time to develop, whether they're internal or external, before we then move them into the next bit. Like, it's quite an intense process.
I have seen it work, in all fairness, as much as I say that. Like, we had Petru, who was a restaurant manager at Drift. Yeah. He came in brand new as a department head, which is still a reasonably high up role, and took over the floor team, and he was great. He was excellent. So I have seen it work. I think it's harder for the person, like, to get on with it. I don't think the team will struggle so much. And I think almost for the team, it's a little bit easier. You can get away with some things. When you've worked internally, you know all the tricks and you know what's going on.
Yeah.
I also think you've said it a couple of times, but I think we're very fortunate, as a business, that all of you are so close.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably, you're exactly right in terms of for an external person coming in, they have such a good bond with their teams, all of them, that you can walk into any site and you know instantly, like, they work for that person. So yes, they work for Drake & Morgan, and that's the overall, and they do, you know, and there's lots of things that we do with that to motivate that. But the way that the guys manage each other and talk makes such a big difference.
Oof, I need a break.
Well, that's fortunate, because Spilling the Tea is sponsored by Toast. Toast is an all-in-one point-of-sale platform built specifically for restaurants. That's right, it's built specifically for restaurants, and means you can run your entire restaurant from one platform.
And did you also know that Toast customers have told us that you can integrate the front of house with the back of house and reduce ticket times by 40%?
40%?
I know. So a huge thank you to Toast for supporting both the UK and this podcast.
Back to work, Sass.
You say that at Drake & Morgan you're super lucky because the teams are really close. How do you create that? How do you make teams really close? And how do you create that culture?
So from a wider perspective like us, there are lots of initiatives and things that have gone into that over the years. So we're very fortunate that Gillian, who's our founder, is still with the business today and is our CEO, and she's phenomenal and she's so inspiring, and she's in the businesses every day of the week. So she knows everybody, just like us, and that's a huge thing. You know, in businesses I've worked previously, they, you know, might be larger in terms of they might have more sites, but they never had that kind of operational head office visibility. They might see potentially their area manager, as such, we call them ops managers, once every week or once every 2 weeks, or, you know, if you're lucky. I mean, I know at one stage I only saw ours once a month. our guys get to see all of us face to face at least once a week, as in they'll see their ops managers every day. They'll see me probably twice or 3 times a week, depending on which site it is. They'll see Gillian at least once a week. They'll see Graham, our director of operations. So we have a really clear line. So we're very fortunate that there's so many eyes on the business that, if we get a vibe for something, or if we're not sure if we pick up on something, we're able to look into it very quickly. We also are very creative and quite... we kind of give the guys an awful lot of freedom that if they have an idea, a bit like Sir Alfie was talking about a little bit earlier, that he did a really huge drinks development project for us. So we change our menus, not counting Christmas, twice a year. And it's a huge event that we call Refresh. And it's not just, a case of taking off a couple of dishes or a couple of wines or cocktails. We literally strip everything back and we look at what the theme is, that marketing and Gillian and Sal, everyone has come up with together. And we really roll that out and put so much effort and innovation into it. We partner with very specific suppliers on it. So right now our theme is Under the Sea. And we've partnered with, I think the RNLI, we partnered on saving the turtles for certain cocktails.
The Lostages rum
Yeah.
is great in the message in the bottle. And King's Cross, we had the terrace redone by Hendrix because they've just had their new gin, Neptunia. So they come and did promotional terrace with us.
And aren't they, I think they're giving some funds off to seagrass, like preservation of seagrass.
I believe so. And they also have the Flora Adora, which is also a separate one, but is also taking % of the
And there's
profit,
ones that you created.
No, to be fair, Patrick mainly worked on the Hendrix ones. I'd love to say it was me, but it really wasn't. But so as you were saying, Patrick brought me in as I started at King's Cross. So he was an AGM at King's Cross when I started there. And I really made good friends with him. We really got along. He was another person. I always compared him to Saeed. Yeah. Because I wasn't working with him then. I've now left.
So another mentor.
So somebody else that I then instantly saw and was
Day-to-day.
This guy, he opened King's Cross as a bartender.
Yeah.
And worked his way up. So then I'm looking at another person now who's high up in management.
And he's now running that site.
Yeah, now he's GM. Yeah. So I'm looking at somebody who started as a bartender, and it gives you a bit more drive. And you're going to listen to that person. They've been there, they've done it. Look where they've got themselves. If they're telling you something, you should listen. Really.
Is that obvious career progression that you can see in others within Drake & Morgan something that makes you want to stay within the company?
100%.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the competition of it as well. To be honest,
we do. Yeah.
I like to banter with some of the ops managers and other GMs and think, I'm going to be the youngest GM and I'm going to run this site before you or whatever. And it's nice to have that drive between the other members of staff, and there's that, or even compete with other bars. We have some incentives every week. We get the numbers sent out. Right now, we're still beating the Folly by 5 shots of tequila.
Casamigos
tequila, yes. Casamigos tequila.
Who's on Folly?
Yeah, don't buy tequila, come to King's Cross. Come buy some Casamigos. Thank you very much.
But no, I think that's exactly it. I think transparency is a really big thing. So obviously for us, for development, as I said before, we really strive to develop everybody, regardless of what level that role that is. And even if it's not necessarily into site, we've homegrown, if you like, the roles in our ops team. Whether that is in sales or marketing or people or food and beverage, purchasing, or even the finance team have taken people from site that now work there. So we do have it's like finding somebody and then really helping them choose what their niche or what they want their niche to be and supporting them with that. I think we always, as I say, with the creativity, we allow the guys to kind of have that freedom in terms of if they've got an idea. And I think that's something that I know that I shouldn't always be very thankful about COVID, but one of the things I am thankful of COVID for was it's really helped us to become much quicker in terms of adapting to a situation. So if somebody has a great idea or wants to try something, we can now get that process done straight away. There's no more hoops to jump through to try. And if it works, amazing, we can roll it out. And if it doesn't, it's fine, you just start again. And I think that giving the guys that freedom, especially in a world where there are rules, there's rules, and the rules are there for a reason. Things like allergens and stuff have been stepped up, makes crystal clear. But sometimes I think people were so concerned initially when that came in that would hamper sort of creativity. And I think it's allowing the guys to play with that and try, obviously making sure that everything fills in the lines, but they can do it. So I think from a culture point of view, I think it has a huge belonging. And exactly as, again, I think because we're all so close and you can see each other, we kind of move people from sites in between so they get that kind of all round, they understand the city a bit more. And I think it makes a huge difference. And obviously we partner with you guys, which massively massively helps, because although Alfie's got his own mentors, which, and to be fair, he's not the only one who feels that way, but we're not set as a business to have mentors for 138 people, which are the ones that we've identified with you guys that you're helping support us with. But we have, we've highlighted a training academy. Alfie spoke about it earlier. We rolled it out last year as a bit of a trial to really focus on our 90-day turnover. So whether or not we were onboarding people, and I'll hold my hands up. You know, there were times where I think, especially after COVID, I think if somebody could carry a tray or could move up and downstairs,
that was me.
People may have said yes to them. And it was a big piece of work getting people out of that reactive hiring kind of era and look at the problems and look at the wider business. And then, or, you know, if somebody calls in sick, if it's meant to be showing them something, that poor new starter gets chucked in the kitchen to polish cutlery, which isn't exactly the most inspiring or best use of their time. So we put together a training academy, which we did in person, all in one site for all the new starters. Alfie was integral to that in terms of getting them all ready, and especially from a drinks point of view, rolling that out. What we've done now is we've adapted it, because we realised that the main floor there was part-timers. Like, if they couldn't start on a Monday, that would mess it up. So we kind of made a programme now for everybody that effectively is, I won't go into all the details, but it's effectively based e-learning and also on site with an individual IST, so an install trainer. Okay. So every site has an install trainer for the kitchen, the bar, the floor, and the reservations team. So they are responsible for training that new starter up, and they basically have a really clear path of what they can put in front of them on the laptop for e-learning. And again, we've made the modules more fun. So it's not just sat looking at a computer screen, reading a computer screen. We've now got fun videos that they can click on to find the difference. They've got an induction on there. So all the stuff that they were possibly waiting 2 weeks to learn before, they can now obviously get on day one and properly looked after. And people that want development, but you're also going to have those people that don't. Like, they've chosen this job for the flexibility, and that works for them, you know, regardless of age. You know, it could be whatever they've got going on in their home life. It could be studying, they could have a family, they might want to be there to pick up their children, you name it. And I think that's what kind of drives our culture, is that we adapt and are flexible for people. We always try and find the right home for them, you know, whether that's in the right site location or the right role for them, especially in Alfie's case for both.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and exactly that. And I think they're the kind of the fundamentals that have really driven.
You have invested a huge amount at Drake and Morgan in training and your training academies and people generally. Yeah. Have you found that since starting the training academies and bringing in these training initiatives that are like on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, have you found that has impacted your retention rates?
Yeah, it's made a massive difference to our retention rates. Like, actually sizable. I think from month one, it was already 20%.
Wow.
But in terms of, it's not even just that, it's like the wider business. So even from menus, and every single staff member tries every single dish and item. And I think sometimes previously when we've had new starters, they've not had that same interaction. And so now they get all the tastings and they try it all. You know, I mean, Alfie, remember when we started doing the academy last year, I had people joining that, especially from your generation, who hadn't actually had wine before. And not because of their age, just because they didn't really know anything about it. Therefore, they thought they didn't like it. But now that we've tried a load and I understand the difference, you know, between this or this, and
you're
now
able
you've
to
made
talk about it.
Exactly.
And ultimately,
you've got to make it fun when you're doing training.
100%.
Yeah,
really
and hospitality is fun, so I think.
It brings it in,
training.
like, just, you know, like, you never know what to expect. So that like in that training, you kind of need to bring that in. Like, I can walk in on a Tuesday, think it's going to be quiet, and then you get 150 people walk in.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
Obviously do our briefings every day, and at different times of the day, depending on what we've got coming in and who we've got joining us and so on and so forth. But you've got to make them fun. You know, there's always going to be a dish to try, you know, or it might be a wine or what the pairing is. We have touched on it, but sustainability as well is huge. So this creativity that we allow the guys to have, especially in the kitchen, but also front of house in terms of a bar. So that, you know, we find them now, they're being a lot more collaborative on their own in terms of the bar guys are going to the kitchen saying, well, what are you using? So what are your specials? What can we incorporate, you know, whether we make it into a syrup or, you know, it's for garnish or whatever it might be that we can use.
Talking about refresh earlier, they are huge. And the last one we was very big on like zero waste and sustainability. And it was a massive thing on the cocktail menu. And I was a part of the development with Patrick and a few of the ops managers, and now we do things like pineapple tapache and things that are using the pineapple skins in the kitchen, are using the core of the pineapple in their desserts, And we're taking the skins, we're making tepache mint stalks, where we're picking the mint off for a mojito. We keep the stalks, we add it to the tepache and
Got our
watermelon
first
wine.
zero carbon cocktail. Well, actually, that was on the last menu, the Merlin.
Oh, the Merlin, yes,
Yeah.
because it was
Everyone
recycling
sold.
gin and also the flavoured air.
Yeah.
Sort of the garnish. That was Patrick. That was really interesting.
So we used to have, so for everyone sold, they plant a tree in the forest.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, but it's like anything, ESG I think is the buzzword, if you like, of the moment.
Yeah.
And we'll name.
Is that important to you, Alfie, personally, sustainability? Is that something that...
I find it quite interesting, to be honest with you. Like, the ability to do it with inside the business is more what interests me than outside of the business. I know that might sound strange, but that's what
Well, no,
more...
because it's tangible for you, isn't it? In
Yeah,
fact,
I
it's something
think-
you're doing every day.
Yeah, that's it.
Impacting.
It's just quite... Some of the cordials and things that we come up with, don't get me wrong, they're quite difficult to keep up with. They're really... When you've got 5, 6 cordials that you need to make from the waste of a watermelon and homemade vermouth and things like that, there is quite a lot, and we are going to slightly reduce it, this menu. We're still going to keep the same theme, but maybe try and just reduce how many types of cordials we have
More manageable.
and just, manage it into...
Make sure it's not more waste.
Keep the same, amount of product that we're using, but just in fewer cordials, so that it's a bit less stress. But it's really interesting in the business to know that, okay, the kitchen have got this, so I'm going to use that afterwards. And you can take it back to your home life as well. Like you learn, even I do some mixo classes. We do a mixology masterclass, which is quite cool. All the sites do them. I had one the other day, and we made the pineapple tepache mojito, and they just couldn't believe the way that it tasted and the fact that we had made it from like pineapple skins in-house, and you add sugar, water, some spices, and you let it ferment. And that's all you do.
So cool.
And they was amazed by that. And I ended up giving them the recipe to go home and make it themselves at home. They said, I love pineapple, I'd eat it. And then the skins I just throw away. There you go, you can make this.
That's so cool, isn't it?
No, it is interesting. It really is. Like, we've got now probably a mango one coming. Hopefully, if I can get that done. And I'm going to be taking on more of a role when it comes to menu development, which will be fun.
So
We enjoy it.
I do, actually.
Yeah.
It is, and it's like you're playing around with it, and that's why I enjoy it. That's the most fun stage, because you just pick 4 ingredients that you think will work, you try and use it, and sometimes it's disgusting.
yeah,
It really, and
but
sometimes you think, what was I
You've got to have some
thinking?
disgusting cocktails to get the good ones. You've got to
And
work through
then
them.
you get a few people to taste them, you get opinions, and then once you get to the more serious stage, you start to present them to our ops managers, then it goes up to Graham, and then at the end we do a tasting for Gillian, the CEO. She's great.
She's the final sign-off on cocktails.
So
On everything.
she's really great, honestly. To see her in the venues, as she was saying earlier, Chantelle is great to see Julie. She comes in, has a right little chat with everyone.
Yeah.
You know what she's been up to in her day. It's nice to know what she's been doing, and she asks you about your day. And she's
Do you find it important having the founder very present and
because
visible?
we do hear a lot about the standards are like this because this is how Gillian likes them. Gillian likes the blankets all outside or rolled up, all facing one direction with the menus, and it looks great. But if I didn't know the person who's telling us as a company that that's how it needs to be done, I probably would care a little bit less. But it's more that I know, well, Gillian might pop in, I'd like it to look nice, like this is the way that Gillian would like it.
Yeah.
I know who Gillian is.
You take pride in it, I
Yeah,
think,
you do. And you're doing it for someone
Yeah.
that you actually know. It's the same as like the mentors with your AGMs and your GMs. You're working for someone. So although I'm not directly working for her every day, I still know at the end of the day who I'm working for. I know my CEO. I know what she gets up to, what she's been doing. We have a little laugh. I did one of the
she
mixo
knows
classes
you.
for her. I had one of the mixo classes with her and some of the other brand ambassadors, maybe some investors, I'm not sure. Just a large group of them, I think about 8. That was funny. Me and an ops manager, Daffyd. He was one of the ones you said earlier who come in as a young GM, I believe.
Did.
At King's Cross as well, right?
Yeah. No, well, before that, he actually was at the Fable.
Fable and then King's Cross. And me and him, we did the mixo for Gillian and some brand ambassadors, and not many people get that opportunity. I don't know many other people that would have done a cocktail masterclass for their company CEO and founder. So I was very nervous. I got to be honest. I was a bit nervous at the
Very
start.
cool.
No, it was great. We made the mojito with them as well, and had a good time. Then they sat down, had lunch, and that's nice. She has her business meetings in venues as well, which I don't know if it's just me or other people, but I quite like that. You know, you take more pride. Like, we're here now to show off who we are and what we can do.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to have a investment meeting in King's Cross and then them leave and say, oh, yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
You know, if they leave and they invest some money into the company, you feel like you did something.
Yeah.
Right, well, I've done well here, look, because the bar looks great. Maybe he's going to invest in the new cocktail menu. Maybe I'm going to... Like, you never know, but you just take some more pride in it. It's really nice.
Absolutely. And the golden question, Alfie.
Go.
Are you going to stay in hospitality? Is that your plan? And and if you are, where are you going?
I've committed to it now, I believe. I really have. And for the past probably 3 months now, I've been ranting to other ops managers, other GMs, even Gillian. She knows herself. Everybody hears, I want to be the youngest GM in the company. I've decided I'm going for it, so I will go for it. It was the same as bar manager. So I was started at the Drift, wasn't sure, and I went, no, you know what, I want to be the bar manager.
What's the age for the youngest GM in the company?
I believe the record is Luca, who was at Regent's Place,
Yes.
which is 24.
Yeah.
I believe 23 or 24.
Do you know what I'd have to do? Is I'll have to find out what it
was it,
was.
Daft?
I'll be able to work it out. No, it won't be Daft. Daft's older than we think he is. It's definitely not Daft.
Got youthful skin.
He has. He's got very youthful skin. We're all quite lucky and blessed with that, actually.
Good skincare regimes at Drake and Morgan. Alfie, what's your timeline?
After Christmas, I'm talking probably. I mean, not
What,
straight
6 months
after
to be
Christmas.
AGM, and then when do you
Probably.
reckon GM?
So before I turn 21, so I'm 20 in about 7 days. What is the
Yeah.
date today?
Happy early birthday.
14th.
Yeah, 7 days. So that's 20. Before 21 AGM. So I'd give myself a year. I'd like to do it before
Well,
then.
you're giving us a year in 6 days.
Yeah, but I'd like to do it before
And
then.
counting.
To be AGM, that is.
Oh, to be AGM?
Yeah.
I thought we were saying a GM in a year in 6 days.
After Christmas, I'd let it run a little bit because I understand.
To be fair, you defied all odds.
When my GM called me, I believe it was when the Euros was on, and he asked me to come in the same day. I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm watching the football. Like, I had decided that I didn't want to work
You
for
were
Drake
out.
Morgan anymore.
Yes.
I said, well, I'm going to
I was in the
football.
Drift that evening.
Oh, was you?
Yeah, I was.
And I
Shut a cover for you.
oh yeah, he was on the
DT.
bar. Yeah, I decided I definitely wasn't going to work hospitality anymore. And then I thought, you know what? I can give it one more shot. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? And worst case, if I don't like it, I'll leave again.
We're very lucky and fortunate in that we have we're not in a recruitment crisis at Drake and Morgan. We're not. I can say that openly. For us, it's just about finding those special people to add as additions. And obviously we ramp it up for Christmas, but on that, we're really fortunate with the teams that we've got and continuing to develop them, really.
Yeah, amazing. Alfie, if you could say the best perk that Drake and Morgan has, what would it be?
Best perk.
Interesting.
Honestly, for me, it's just the progression and just being able to see it. Like, I'm one of the people, I can't work if I can't see progression. I really can't. I won't want to be there. I'll have no interest. I'll be so unbothered because I don't see myself going anywhere. But when you can have something to drive for, then I'll really go for it. I'm like one or the other. I'm either not going to care, not going to want to do it, not even pay attention to you or listen, or I'm going to get my head down and absolutely go for it and tell you all what I'm going to do.
You're a man of extremes.
Yeah, a
Yes.
little bit, yeah. I really am. So that's why now I've decided I'm going to be GM. I'm going to make it happen. It's going to be at the Drift. I'm gunning for it. And yeah,
Do you know
we'll
what?
see.
I don't doubt you for even a
But I'm gonna
second
have to
that's
let you
gonna
know when it
happen.
happens,
Yeah,
aren't
I'd be
I?
really
I'll come
intrigued
back.
to know.
We'll be back in a
We'll
year
have
and a
like a
half.
little,
We'll do a follow-up.
Yeah, like they do on like
Where is he
Love
now?
Island,
Yeah.
where they like revisit
I feel like a
the
celebrity.
couple.
This is great.
Yeah.
Alfie be like, I now want to be an ops manager
Yeah.
in 6 months' time.
And now I want to
I'd
be
like to take
managing
over the company in a
director.
year.
Chantelle, what
Yeah.
would you say is the best perk that Drake and Morgan offers?
That's really hard because I obviously look at it from a different point. I would say, actually, in all seriousness, probably development, but like the training side of it. And
academy.
literally, yeah, it's the academy, the training schools. One we have, obviously, other than key legal things, we have it available in 78 different languages, which is great because we have 48 different nationalities that work for
Yeah.
us. Something we're immensely proud of. And we have different stars in there. So as I say, there's videos, it's interactive. You know, it's one of the things that we ask people now when we start, how do you like to learn? Because, you know, you want to make sure that training is accessible for everybody and you want to be that, you know, flexible and fair. So it's not a case of one size fits all. And I think that's probably the biggest things that's changed in the last sort of 10 years is people realising that it's not just a case of giving somebody a workbook anymore. Some, you know, occasionally you'll find something's fallen through through the cracks. You know, I was in one of our sites the other day, and somebody said, I'm having a bit of a problem with a staff member. It's coming close to the end of a probation, but I'm still not happy, you know, with X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, how long have you noticed it? Have you spoken to them about it? And we talked about it. And I said, if you ask them what, you know, how they learn, you know, what's their best style of learning? And they were like, no, I haven't really done it. And I was like, well, do that, and then let's address it from there, see how we can support them, because it's not just a case of expecting somebody to, yes, we've got training to a point, and then we expect people, you know, to be able to pick it up. But also, it's not just about abandoning ship if it doesn't work. You know, how can we adapt to make it right for them? So within 5 minutes, he'd gone off and had this conversation with his team member, and they came out and said, actually, you know, I actually suffer with this, and therefore I prefer to learn it this way. Amazing, we can do that. Do you know what I mean? And then straight away we have a programme, and now we're 2 weeks in, and he's like, it's like a completely different person.
Also, retention.
Yeah.
You've retained that person. Instead of
100%.
letting them go,
Massively.
literally you've kept somebody within your team, and cost-wise in terms of retaining that person, just by asking a couple of simple questions.
That's the thing.
Are you both very proud to work at Drake & Morgan? Because the things you're doing are actually, I would say, not industry standard.
No, I definitely am, especially now that I'm taking over like the cocktail development and things like that.
I thought you were
And
going
I'm
to
at
say, especially
Flagship.
now that I'm taking over the company.
And taking over the drift.
No, not yet. I'm not that far ahead yet.
But we also have an app,
8K.
so they've got a live app where they can see all the, again, all
I can
management.
check it right now.
Yes,
sites
but you can
numbers.
effectively see all sites numbers. So live through the day, you can be like, oh, we're
Amazing.
beating this site, or oh, we're not, or where are we? Or and then you can guess as well, at like, oh, they put their pre-orders through because like 3 o'clock, someone's figures might go
You see a
huge.
spike at 3 p.m. because all of the
Because they're normally
buckets of
having a
beers.
downtime, so they're getting ready for the evening shift.
Okay, so you can see what's coming in.
But
on
yeah,
the
so they
sites.
can have like a live rivalry from it.
That's fantastic.
Which is a random question for you. So, how far ahead have you planned your career now in hospitality?
Probably operations manager and hopefully head of menu development at one stage.
That's what you want to do?
Yeah.
So what, go GM and then what, do ops or do menu or do both?
Both do ops and menu, and then from there see where I am financially. I mean, I wouldn't mind to own my own business. I know that's massive,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's a really good thing.
depending
was
where
gonna
it
be my
depends
next
where I am
question.
financially. To be honest with you, I want to. I've like worked quite hard. I work a lot of hours, and I'm trying my best to save a lot of money. I want to buy a house. Once I own my house, I mean, then I can step back a little bit, have a little look. Might even, I don't know, take a little bit of holidays, like relax a little bit.
When's the house planning planned for?
GM.
Fine, okay.
GM.
I knew there'd be a timeline considering
Yeah.
everything else is on a
Yeah,
timeline.
GM.
Do you see that career path up to AGM or up to ops and menu development all at Drake & Morgan?
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, unless something major changes, I joke with
You
the
like
other
the
ops
way it
managers.
is.
I mean, as long as it goes on my timescale, it's okay. I'm a little bit impatient. I am, but I will do my best to get it there. And, you know, I'm always asking, okay, well, I want to be an AGM. If you're saying that I'm not ready yet, what do I need to do to be ready? And then I'll get myself ready and I'm going to come
You're
back
just
at you.
hungry for it.
Yeah, I'll come back at you in 6 weeks when I think that I've done what you've asked and say, right, well, I'm ready now.
I know,
What's
you
going on?
have done that.
That
This isn't new information to me.
No, yeah, I know. That is me. I am all over it, but it works, and I think that's
It does.
why it works. When you got two people being honest, and me saying, "Well, no, this is what I want. This is why I want it, and how do I get it?" and the other person's giving you an honest answer of, "All right, yeah, I understand that you want that, and I can see that it's possible for you, but you're not ready, so you need to do this."
I think your timeline might get there. You seem very determined.
We'll see. Yeah.
Listen, guys, we're going to finish off our conversation, we're going to do a quick fire round. Most used app on your phone. Most used app on your phone.
Probably the Micros app, to be honest with you.
Which is just to
check the
confirm it's a
financials.
work app.
Yeah, I don't use Instagram. I don't have Instagram or nothing like that. I do have TikTok, which I like to use sometimes, but
Do you know what, now you think about it, I thought it was TikTok, but then I realised actually I only go on TikTok when I'm going to bed and like I can't sleep. Actually, probably in my work emails.
yeah.
The most used
Probably
app
both
on both of your
workaholics.
phones is a work
Yeah.
and to do with work.
I
Okay.
mean-
where do you get your news from?
I have it on in the morning and then I check the news when I go to bed and then
What, on an app or?
No, just as in I'll just Google BBC News and whatever goes on.
Fine,
Never got a clue.
fine.
I don't keep up with it at all, honestly.
Favourite restaurant?
1890 by Gordon Ramsay in the Savoy.
Mm-hmm.
It seats, I think, 27 people. the food was out of this world, and the service was like nothing I'd ever experienced before.
Amazing.
Honestly, we're the most incredible place.
Changes all the time. I mean, brand-wise, one that's probably always been like a core staple for me was Hawksmoor, because I'm a massive steak girl, I think. But other than that, I mean, I was at a really beautiful restaurant last week called Sumi in Westbourne Grove.
Going out or staying in?
Going out.
Going out.
Early shift or late shift?
Late shift.
Late shift.
Nice. Do you know what, guys? That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you,
Thank
for
you.
coming on today. It has been amazing to talk to you about everything, and I feel like we haven't even skimmed the surface. There's just so much we can say on this
I don't even know
topic.
how long we've been here.
Alfie, I know that all of our listeners will be watching at your career with great interest. And
Email Chantelle, recommend me. What are the emails? No, please.
honestly, thank you so much for answering every question.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Spilling the Tea, brought to you by Otolo.
If you want to attract, retain, or develop your team, check us out at myotolo.com.
That is www.myotolo.com.